everyone? This is Ian Miller,
What's going on, guys? It's Andrew.
and welcome back to another episode of Media Talk with Merlin Smith. Tonight, we're actually going to do something, again, very different. This is going to be a tribute episode. As many of you know, we lost a great legend in the acting world. James Earl Jones had tragically passed away a couple of days ago. He was 93 years old. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Mm-hmm.
We have respected James's work for a number of years. Obviously, he's well known as the voice of Darth Vader in the Star Wars films.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew him in other performances in other films, like as Admiral Greer in the Jack Ryan movies.
Mm-hmm. Mufasa from Lion King.
Yeah.
Just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
The Sandlot. Field of Dreams. Coming to America.
Yeah.
We pretty much grew up with this man. So this is a hard one.
Yeah. It's especially gonna hit hard because there's all these people, our age or maybe a little bit older, who through the years have watched The Lion King. This is gonna be in my opinion. I don't know about anybody else's, but now that James Earl Jones has passed, watching The Lion King is actually going to hit harder now.
Yeah, I had the same reaction when Leonard Nimoy from Star Trek had passed away. And he's not well known for playing the character Spock. And when I was watching Wrath of Khan, where Spock actually dies, and there's the death scene and there's the funeral scene where Kirk gives a very beautiful, eulogy for Spock. And I watched it shortly after Leonard Nimoy passed away, and I was like, when I saw the funeral scene, I was like, wow, this hits much harder because, again, you're not going to see him again. He's not on this earth anymore. So, yeah, the death scene in Lion King hits harder, obviously, as well as Mufasa coming back, through his essence, his spirit coming back, December when he's an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So those scenes hit harder, especially in the animated form. So yeah, those scenes are gonna stay with me for quite a while, since this has happened. But I have to say, James's work will obviously live on in film. Obviously, will live on with people that have known him, that have worked with him. And in fact, I actually have one of my favorite stories of Star Wars, and James actually said this in one of the interviews. It was during Empire Strikes Back. As you know, James Earl Jones is voicing the character. He's not physically playing the character, but when they were shooting the scene when Darth Vader tells Luke that he's his father, right? The actor on stage was actually saying, Obi-Wan killed your father.
Mm-hmm.
And when James Earl Jones was about to record the lines, Lucas actually said, okay, James, this is actually what Vader's going to be saying. And James read the line and said, he's lying, right? Because even he couldn't believe that this was his father.
Yeah.
But this villain could be the hero's father. And the way James delivered that line, I was like, wow, that's one of those lines that just went down in movie history.
Yeah. I was, one thing that actually kind of stuck out to me a little bit um, was actually when they were first casting Darth Vader. Um, there was an interview. I don't know if you saw it or not. Um, we all know that David Prowse was the the body of Darth Vader.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, what was interesting was that when they were trying to find, the voice for Vader, they actually tried out, David Prowse, who was the body of Vader.
mm,
They actually tried out his voice to see what it would be like, if he was actually terrifying enough to actually be Vader in the suit. You know, they tried that voice out. Clearly, that didn't work because of his voice, his accent. Um, Clearly, it wasn't terrifying enough for who Vader was and who Vader should be. So, they actually, tried to find a couple voices for Vader until they came across, James Earl Jones. Um, and that, and at that point, um, I thought that, seeing that interview, seeing what he was talking about, um, how they wanted him as Vader of the voice, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, yeah, that actually worked right there. That actually came together really, really beautifully. So I thought, you know, that was great on them, on Lucas.
yeah. Uh, it's also a great part, and he is terrifying as Darth Vader because, especially when you hear the mechanical breathing and you hear his voice, you're like, wow.
Yeah,
It was the same reaction I had when I saw, episode three, where it's a Sith. When you hear the breathing for the first time in so many years, and you hear that voice, you're like, oh my god, it's like no time has passed. It's that terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's a huge departure, obviously, when you go to Lion King because his Mufasa is much more softer,
yeah,
more of a father figure there than obviously in Star Wars.
yeah. I mean, all the voices that James Earl Jones did, you really just can't choose one because he was really great in all of them. And plus his parts were very different, and he did have some guest, animated guest starring roles in other TV shows.
Well, yeah, he also had other guest roles in live action stuff, but I
Yeah, no,
remember he was in episode. He was in a few episodes of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman,
mhm.
where he decides that Metropolis does need the Daily Planet. I was like, wow, I forgot he did that. You know,
Yeah. Um, he was actually, and I was watching this recently. He was actually in an episode of The Big Bang Theory,
yeah,
um, where he was sitting in a cafe or a restaurant, and then Sheldon sees him, and then
Sheldon.
goes, and then just goes over to James Earl Jones. And his line was like, "Let me guess, you're a Star Wars fan." And then all of a sudden, Sheldon just smiles and he just nods his head. And then as soon as Sheldon does that, James is like, "Well, you know what? So am I." And he has that just big grin on his face.
Yeah, it just his mouth just lit everybody up.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and which is funny because James actually didn't find Sheldon annoying or you know um, didn't want him to go away or anything like that, like all his other friends did.
Mhm.
He actually enjoyed Sheldon's company. Um, but yeah, given like with all the roles that he did, he actually had those comedy roles too, which is actually he was pretty funny in those too. So
Yeah, he definitely did have a sense of humor, which is fantastic. It makes me admire him even more because obviously he's very well known for these dramatic roles.
yeah,
Um, and going back to the Jack Ryan trilogy for a second, especially the first three films, playing the role of Admiral Greer, even though it's relatively a small part, you know,
hmm
you just feel his presence, especially when he's helping Jack go through some of these situations,
yeah,
and offers some advice. And especially in the film Clear and Present Danger, where the Greer character is very sick, and it's terminal, and he's still advising, Jack, saying you gotta, you made, you made your word for the American people. You have to do what's right. And even as he's dying, he's just telling Jack that. I was like, even think about that now. That's a tragic scene right there. We see Greer in the hospital.
yeah.
And I was like, wow. And James always played whatever part he was so effortlessly. It looked effortlessly.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he just gave it. He just, he gave it his all. Whatever part he had, he just, no matter what it was, he just, like you said, he played it effortlessly and gave it his all.
I wish to God I was able to see one of his stage performances because that
Yeah,
would have been something to see.
I know. I know.
Yeah, because he's also a theatrical, actor. I was like,
Mhm.
man, missed opportunities there.
Yeah. Um, there's there's um there's a part, of you know, there's this one scene where he's, you know, it's gonna it's most popular in the film industry or all of film where he's in Field of Dreams and he made that speech,
Yeah,
to Kevin Costner, um, where he's like, what was it? It was Ray, people will come,
People will come, Ray.
and he just had that whole speech, and you know that speech he made in Field of Dreams is going to go down as one of the best speeches in film history.
yeah. I always felt that, and I still feel this now. They should actually play that speech before every baseball game.
I agree.
Just to also give the not just the fans, something to, get excited about, but also rile up, the players because again, that's the type of speech that would get them rallied up.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree with you. I mean, even if it's you know whether team is in a playoff race or whether the team is in uh, what is it um even if they're down on on a losing streak, and but they still love their team, that speech should even be played to hype up the fans. People will come,
Yeah,
and that should just be played in. I agree with you. Played in every stadium, just to remember James by and to just hype up their team.
yeah.
You know, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I remember coming to America, the first two films. Yeah, obviously they were decades apart, and the second one, when he knows he's dying, right, and he's
Yeah,
having a ceremony where he's witnessing things, before he passes. It's a celebration of his life that he's witnessing it. And it was like, that's probably a good way to go. That's probably a good way. And that was his last movie that he did. And I was like, it's a great way to say goodbye to, get to a character like that.
Yeah.
And even that character was iconic from the first one, from the first Coming to America.
Hmm.
So it was very smart of Eddie Murphy to possibly to even ask James to do this, to do the role.
Yeah, I mean, because there are certain roles where you can't really recast them, even even in sequels. You
Yeah.
know, it, there's just a part of that, that person that um, if you try to recast them in that same role and you add a different actor, it's not the
Well,
same.
sometimes it works. I mean, you had Alec Baldwin in Hunt for October, but unfortunately he couldn't do it because he was doing a show on Broadway. So they brought in Harrison Ford, and I'm like, he turned out to be even better.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. I
I
mean,
do,
these iconic roles. I mean, you can't. It's like you couldn't have anyone play Darth Vader. You couldn't have anyone else play Mufasa. You
yeah,
know, you really couldn't have anyone else play like the one for Coming to America. All those iconic roles. It just fits that actor, and James Earl Jones really fit those parts, and you can't really replace him. You really
yeah.
can't.
What was interesting was, as we're talking about Darth Vader back here for a second, in the video games, and especially the recent ones, I had heard, at least pretty good impressions of Jones's voice,
Hmm.
especially with the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor,
Yeah.
those things. I listened to Outlaws the other day because I'm not gonna say much because I know you guys haven't played the video game yet, but I'm not gonna say much. But I did hear a snippet of the voice actor in there. It's okay. It's like it doesn't quite have the same, umph as Jones did,
Yeah.
but you know, it always made me wonder. Well, why? I know that he gave away his voice likeness to Lucasfilm for future projects.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, why didn't they do that for the video games? But again, it doesn't matter.
No, I mean, well, we brought this up a couple days ago that what was it? We were talking about the video games and everything, and I told you that well, I asked you like why like his voices weren't used in the video games, and you said like I think his I told you like he gave up his rights to Lucasfilm and stuff like that, um, and then um you you told me that I think his contract was for the movies only, like live action.
Yeah, probably. It makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah, so we don't really know what he was really like what his contract stated. So it could have been only live action and not video games, or he just didn't want to do the video games. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. It was interesting. I was watching Rogue One earlier today for that matter. I get to his Darth Vader scenes, and you can tell a little bit that he's a little bit older,
mhm.
but I was like, it's still there. The energy's still there, you know,
Yeah,
and just as terrifying. Just as terrifying. It was like that. I was even like that with Obi-Wan Kenobi when we saw that, especially
right.
the scenes they was fighting Obi-Wan. I was like, you know, they did a pretty good job matching the voice.
Yeah. Um, what was it that I was gonna say? No, I totally agree. I mean, it was um when I when the Obi-Wan show came out. Um, what was it like last year?
I think it was like 2 years ago.
Years ago? Has it years ago?
Yeah,
Um, I thought that, he actually he actually came back for the show.
yeah.
Uh,
It was that good.
yeah, yeah, and then you told me like they used the AI re-speecher. for him,
Yeah.
or like a poetry speecher for him.
Yeah.
It kind of brought me down a little bit, but I can understand why he did it, or why they did it.
Yeah.
But it really, if they use his voice, I mean, just having his voice there, it still brings back a lot of stuff. But
Yeah. It was always interesting when they did the radio dramas in the 80s.
mhm.
Well, what folks, you probably don't aware of this, I'm pretty sure you hardcore Star Wars fan would know this, is that in the 1980s, the National Public Radio station actually did radio dramas of the trilogy, the original
Right.
trilogy. Obviously, the Star Wars was first, and they did that to generate, you know, excitement, enthusiasm for Empire Strikes Back, which is about to be released. And they did the same thing with Return of the Jedi, when they released Empire Strikes Back, the radio drama.
Yeah.
But what they did was they hired an actor named Brock Peters, a very, very well known actor. You obviously remember him, Smith, from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
played. Yeah, very, very well known actor. He was hired to voice Darth Vader for the radio drama. So I'm like, well, why didn't James want to do it? Because either he's probably busy voicing Darth Vader from the movies and just didn't feel like doing it. Brock did a pretty good job voicing Vader in the radio drama, but I was like, still a missed opportunity there for James to do it.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Yeah.
Has James ever actually won any Oscars? Because I think he was at least nominated.
I believe he was nominated a few times. Well, yeah, I will check that for you in 1 second. I believe let's see. Let's try. Actually, he was. Yeah, I think I read that actually. He he actually got an EGOT. So he has an EGOT.
Really?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for some of you who may not know what the EGOT is, he's won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and a Tony. So add that to his list of accomplishments.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And as I remember before the show started, we were talking about she has a theater named after him.
Yeah. He does have a theater named after him. It's actually called the James Earl Jones Theater, if you believe it or not. I believe it is still running. It's located on 138 West. What was it? 138 West 48th Street. I'm not sure if you know what that is.
I think I know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe it is still there. It was rebuilt actually a couple of years ago, between like 2021 and 2022. But apparently it is still up and running, and from what I saw, there is a play that's actually going to be on there, well, in that theater next month.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. But yeah, I was told that by our good friend Feller, which all of you fans know out there. Yeah, he actually told me that there was actually a James Earl Jones Theater in the city. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? So I had to do all the research about it, and it's crazy that he has a theater named after him. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show you how much James is beloved in theater and also in the acting world. I mean, he's left behind a impeccable legacy.
He did. From what I'm seeing, he I don't know if you've ever. He was he won an honorary. From what I'm seeing, won an honorary award He was nominated a lot. He was nominated for, I don't know if you've ever seen The Great White Hope or if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, I never saw it though.
Yeah, he was nominated a couple times for that. He actually won a Tony for that.
Wow.
Yeah, he won that in 1987, in 1969. Sorry.
And that was, I think, the same year that he also did a guest spot on Sesame Street.
Oh, was it? Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what was interesting was he's also in another film called Doctor Strangelove,
Hmm.
with Peter Sellers, and this was like 1962, I think. Maybe 63. No, I think it was 64, 64. Basically, I'm starting to remember now. Yeah, and he was one of the pilots, and I kept watching this actor. I was like, he looks familiar, he sounds familiar. I'm like, is this James Earl Jones? And I look at his face, I was like, that is, oh my God, that is James Earl Jones as a young man.
Oh, wow.
Because he has that distinct voice. You can't, you know, mistake that voice for anybody. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
this
you
is
can't.
like a baby picture here.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, he actually also, I don't know if you've seen, he's actually won 2 Emmy Awards. One was from a show called Heat Wave. I don't know if you've seen, it's an earlier show in 1990.
Not way before my time, like a year before my time.
Yeah, it was a mini series. And then he actually won Outstanding Actor for a show called Gabriel's Fire.
That I did hear
That you,
about.
okay. Yeah, that was in 1991. So he won Outstanding Actor for that one too.
Yeah, because I remember everyone was talking about that project and also his performance in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I heard about that in college. It was through one of my courses.
Hmm.
I actually watched a snippet of it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. But you just he's really going to be missed in the film industry because he was just such an icon, you know such a legend. People looked up to him. People always wanted to meet him, and it's just he I feel like he lived the life that he wanted to.
Yeah, he always struck me as someone that lived life on his terms,
Yeah.
which I think those who knew him best, I think hopefully that's accurate description. Um, because I remember his wife had actually passed away a couple of years before that, maybe 5 years before,
Hmm.
and I honestly like to think that they were united.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I normally don't get talking about stuff like this, folks, because like, again, it's a tough subject, especially when you're still young and vibrant. But these type of situations, even though we never met the man, we would like to have met him, but
Yeah.
it does make you think about your place on this earth.
He never went to Comic-Con, right? He never went to New York, did he?
No, he never did. Never did.
Even though he lived in Dutchess County. I
Yeah.
mean, he never came to Comic-Con.
No, yeah, not to my recollection, he never went to New York Comic Con. Mark Hamill's gone to New York Comic Con a couple of times.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of Mark Hamill, for a minute, right after, like, when he heard the news um, that James had passed, I forgot what exactly the words Mark said, but at the end of it, he did "Rest in peace, Dad."
Yeah, yeah,
Which is, all of you Star Wars fans, you know that reference, but just a touching tribute. from
Yeah.
what Mark did, so.
It's a very nice tribute. I wonder if Harrison Ford did something like that when Sean Connery passed, and said, "Bye, Dad."
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't remember, but it's nice that Mark was. He's obviously touched by James's passing, and they obviously got along,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
with both brothers and all that. So they probably had a pretty good rapport with each other. So yeah. Yeah, it's funny to think about because you were mentioning this to me the other day that almost a lot of people that were in that that played Darth Vader are no longer with us.
Yeah.
The original trilogy, yeah.
The original trilogy, yeah. You had Sebastian Shaw, I believe his last name was. He played Anakin / Vader. You didn't really see his face until the 6th movie.
Yeah.
At the end of it, when Mark Luke took his helmet off, and then you saw him as a Force ghost. But we won't go into that after what happened with the with the re-release.
Damn special edition cuts, George. What the hell were you thinking? You can't find the original cuts anywhere. Anywhere. Sorry, folks.
It's a touchy subject for him. So
it's so touchy. It's so touchy. It's like if you re-edit Indiana Jones, all those movies. No, that would have been overkill.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but we won't get into that. But yeah, so you have Sebastian Shaw who died a while back, and then, like I said earlier in the show, you had David Prowse who was the body for Darth Vader in the suit, and now obviously James Earl Jones. But yeah, I think this one kind of hits hard the most because he was such a beloved actor, and
yeah,
he's gonna be missed all over the world. So
yeah, I'm thinking back to the Big Bang Theory episode for a second. When James and Sheldon were staying outside a certain house.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
By another Star Wars legend.
Yeah.
Our very missed Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great episode just to have them two in the same episode. That was
James, it's not. I told you it's not funny. I was like, you sly dog.
It's like, then why am I laughing?
Great sense of humor.
Great sense of humor. There was actually one, given our, likes of comedy, there was actually another guest spot where he was in. You'll know this because we both watched the show until it went downhill. He was actually in a guest spot of 2.5 Men.
Oh yeah, this was before it went downhill.
Yeah, this was before it went downhill when when Charlie's friend Andy, who was actually played by his brother Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
So Charlie was rethinking his life. He was remembering his friend, and then he was going back to was actually thinking about his own funeral, seeing how many people would come and who's there, with his, speaking at his funeral, James Earl Jones.
Yeah. Oh, I just remember something. But before we get to that, yeah, it's kind of haunting to have him, speaking at the funeral, it was like, whoa! It's like he wasn't death, obviously, but with that big booming voice, you're like, it sends shivers down to your bones. There's like, whoa, in a funny way, in a funny way.
In a funny way. Yeah.
Yeah, but he'd actually been on The Simpsons in the second season, and it was the first annual Treehouse of Horror
Oh,
episode.
wow.
And this was back in 1990. And my God, dude, he gave a terrifying reading of The Raven from Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh my
Of
god.
course, Homer and Marge and Bart, were reacting to that poem,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And the way that James read it, it was haunting. And it totally worked for there. And when he gets to the last line, in that big booming voice, he said, "Shall be lifted, nevermore." It was haunting. I was like, wow, now that's a good narrator.
It's just like from what we said today, it's like he really could do anything with that voice. It's whether it's haunting, whether it's chilling, whether it's just like comedy voice. I mean, no matter what, he just had the great voice for anything that he did.
Yeah. And he lived a long life. I honestly hope to God it was a good one.
I'm sure it was. Um, I'm sure he thought it was. He, I know he did so much stuff. I'm pretty sure he lived the life that he wanted to. And all the iconic roles he had and everything like that. I'm sure he pretty much just did what he wanted to in his life.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, James, um, as two big fans of yours, we thank you.
Thank you for everything that you did, in the film industry, for just giving us everything just to take a break from real life for a little bit.
Yeah.
For all the movies and TV shows that you did, especially in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You were our favorite bad guy, even though you were never a bad guy.
100%.
We'll miss you.
Yes. I'm sure before we leave, if any of you fans out there have any movies, TV shows of his that you enjoyed, just send us a comment. Just list any movie, TV show, you know, guest spot, anything that he did. Just let us know. What your favorite one was.
Yeah, it was really like hearing from you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to be it for us tonight. Before we do go, in our next episode, we're going to have an in-depth talk about Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some spoilers, so fair warning. If you haven't seen it yet, go and see it.
Yes, go to the theater and see it.
Yeah. And for those of you who had not gone to Broadway yet, and might want to have some uplifting, you still a chance to see Once Upon a Mattress at the Hudson Theater.
Yeah, you still have till November 30th, so I would get your tickets now.
Yeah.
Especially now, since we're talking about a tribute to, James Earl Jones, and you're feeling down. Go see it. Happy time.
Or just go watch Star Wars.
Or that.
Yeah. It's always interesting, when an actor passes, the theater managers usually dim the lights a little bit in honor of their memories. So hopefully, I don't know if they did that for James yet, but hopefully they did.
Well, really quickly, I don't know if you saw it, but the night that he passed, on that night, they actually lit up the Empire State Building in red for Darth Vader.
Yeah, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because they also did the same thing with when Adam West passed away. They had the bat signal lit up. So that's cool, and it shows a great amount of respect.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm Ian Miller,
I'm Andrew Smith.
and this has been Media Talk with Miller Smith. Have a good night, folks.
Good night, guys.
If you'd like to follow us on YouTube, just hit that like button and subscribe.